All right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to thank Mathrubhumi Literature Festival for having me on board. I'm the youngest speaker, so I'm very happy and I'm interacting with people of my age group. So you're all from what age groups? 13, 14, so that's 7th, 8th grade. All right. So without further ado, let's begin with my story. All journeys have secret destinations of which the traveler is unaware. Similar to my experience in Mathrubhumi, I got Unstoppable 21, that was by Times of India, just last year, recently. And today I'm here to Mathrubhumi, which was an unaware experience for me. So let's move to the next slide. A tree as big as you can reach starts with a small seed. 1,000-mile journey starts with a small step. And I believe that small step today, where all of us are present, is to take the small step towards writing your first story. So let's go to the next slide. So how did a small observation of what this figure is right here lead to me standing on the stage? This image literally is the only reason I am standing here today. So can any of you tell me what this is? Absolutely. Everyone is perfect with the answer. It is a dustbin. I chose to write a story on Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. That was by our Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji. Taking it from there, I wrote my first story, that is Magical Dustbin. The only change I did in my first book that would be displayed in a few slides is that I wrote poems before every story. So for example, when I wrote Magical Dustbin, I included a poem that is In Pin Safety Bin. I'm a magical bin. Garbage of street or household waste. I pop in everything just like a piece of cake. Taking this simple poem led a small observation into a big leap, taking me to write my first book. So, does anybody know what is the sideline of Mathrubhumi festival? A hint, it's the festival of? Absolutely. So, let's begin a story from the root word, that is letters. How do you form a story, or what is the story made up of? It's made of letters. Letters make a word, make a sentence. You go to a paragraph, a page, and then a book. Before a page, ideally a story, but that's what we are here for. So, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't crawl, but why? Because you ever and ever have to keep moving forward by Martin King Jr. So this quote is something that inspired me to start from scratch. That is, it's a festival of letters. So I began with letters and all the way taking up to my first book. So this is my first book that I was talking about, in which I have included the poem, The Magical Dustbin, and as a story. So my first book, A True Catalyst. Does any of you know what a catalyst means? A catalyst comes from chemistry, which we all have a subject in school, that means to initiate a journey, to initiate a chemical reaction. So this book was my starting point, my first book. That's the reason I use the word catalyst here. In the background, you can see all the characters of my book. For example, Karthik and Mixi, a journey about creation. This is Karthik, the young boy the whole story is based on. I've written about science fiction in all of my books. So Karthik resembles my name, that's Karnav Rastogi. After that, I went to a walking, talking robot, that is Mixi. Mixi is a guiding friend to Karthik, and this is Karthik's father, Vikram Aditya. Taking it to the characters, that is Karthik's grandfather, that is Karthik's father, Vikram Aditya, and that is a policeman, toy maker, and much more to cover in my first book. My second book is an adventure about jungle, which you thoroughly will enjoy and love. The reason being, there are 5 elements in the book, from which 2 I won't disclose, and it's available at Mathrubhumi books, which you can take my book from. But the 3 main things is fear, adventure, and lots of fun. How did I cover these elements from my first book in a second book that's a novel? So fear and anxiety that I included in my second book, in the first part of my book, is where I have taken science fiction. So we all are aware about drones, aren't we? We are. And can you understand what animals speak? No, right? We cannot understand what the animals speak. They are living creatures, but we can't understand. Similarly, I came up with a device in this book that is voice changer. It changes animal's voice into convertible voice that you can understand as a human. And the last 3 paragraphs are wonderful. My personal favorite, because there you are able to decode a map. It's based on mental ability. You get the direction that this is the treasure, but how do I go? Should I go from north? Should I go east? Where should I go? So that's the fun element, a thrill and adventure novel that end includes solving a mystery. So the new characters are over here in my book, second book. These are all Karthik and Mixi's friends over here. That's Karthik and that's his friend. Moving on. So what do you understand by this image? Can somebody raise your hand and tell me what this image specifies? Both of them. Anyone in the crowd? Yes? That's absolutely correct. COVID-19, a lockdown. The phase where I started to shift from books to e-comics, because I believe that we all should go online. We all should get the essence of AI. So this is the most important slide of today's presentation or today's speaking that I would be having. A free-flying bird to a cage. A free-flying bird I was before the lockdown. I could do anything. Go to school, play with friends, write books. But all of a sudden came lockdown. Couldn't think of anything, got trapped in the 3 screens. Computer, television and mobile phone. Totally trapped, couldn't think of anything. I went into a cage that time. I started to introspect what's going on in my life. Where am I? Where am I actually? Am I writing books? School's online, everything's online. In front of a TV I was. I started to learn or unlearn. I started to learn the protocols of the masks we are wearing. I started to wash my hands through the 7-step method. Then I started to unlearn the offline school way because I myself had to adapt to online school. I started writing poems. One poem that I have written was presented in the National Youth Summit in 2020. That was about plastic and its pollution and its factors. Then I took nature as an observation. I took nature as a main observation for all of my books. I've written 11 books together, credited to me. This book is also based on nature, and all the rest books such as Jungle Adventure, short stories, all of them are based on nature. Nature was the biggest observation I got in my life. Then I went to the 3 screens, AI, something really different. Can somebody tell me what AI stands for here? That's excellent. Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, to make you understand, is pretty easy. You put a human brain into a machine. That's artificial intelligence. Beauty. My third book is based on artificial intelligence. But before that, what are the 3 screens? How were we trapped in them? The first screen is the mobile phone, which most of you use. Second is computer for school assignments and Google Classroom. And third is television that we watch for entertainment, news, etc. I was trapped in these 3 screens in the lockdown, and that's how I got an idea. Why not write a book on artificial intelligence? So I used something which you would have never heard of, and I'm sure about it. AI Dungeon. Does any of you have any idea what this is? Because this is totally new. So AI Dungeon is an AI story writer, which I used to write my third book. How did I use an AI to write my book? So what you do is, first to come up with a rough plan in the first 3 months, that I would start with 3 sections. That's what my book is. That first section and second section would be on a Jupiter's moon. So any idea how many moons does Jupiter have? Anyone? It has around 70 moons, 60 to 70 moons. Taking one moon out of that was, as per my research, Europa, where I believe that water is found. Apart from Mars, that everybody is researching, I went on to Jupiter, beyond the asteroid belt, and saw a moon over there. Europa is what it is based on. I started writing on AI, put in my story in AI, one story, single story of hardly 3 to 4 pages, and AI changed the story completely. It added the words I never would have thought of, even though it changed the meaning, but I edited it day and night to come up with my third book that's an Amazon bestseller. Coming on, how can I contribute to this cage I am in? That's why I chose AI as a factor to write. E-comics. I'll take you year by year on how many e-comics I have written. I've written 3 e-comics mainly, one on plastic pollution, ocean pollution, and coronavirus that we all are aware of. First comic and second comic were in the year 2020. That's the time there was lockdown at its peak. And then I went to 2021 for my third comic. Moving ahead, so these are the e-comics I was talking about. 2020, 2021, and 2022. So 3 comics, 3 years. Began with the first one, that is Karthik Mixi, a journey about coronavirus prevention. This was the time when I felt that awareness for coronavirus should be made. And these were the sponsors that helped me make my book be freely available online. So now if any of you after the session even has a phone and enter the titles of these books, you can get and easily freely download the copy. This is how these sponsors such as Umang Foundation, SNE, and the last one is Tinkle that we all are aware of, that we have read about. So first one is on coronavirus, second on plastic pollution, and the third is on ocean pollution. Third book, one of my most favorite books, is Karthik Mixi, Creating Adventure with Artificial Intelligence. Now, recently I was reading a book called World in 2050. That is by, I believe, World in 2050. And on page number 112, it's written about climate change, about carbon emissions that I would slowly come on. But it was written about a graph of carbon emissions such as this, and there were 5 main factors about the graph. Then I was also reading a book which is known as Life 3.0 by Max Tegmark, and it mentioned 3 points. So if you notice, the name of the book is Life 3.0, you might be wondering what happened to 1.0 and 2.0. So it has 3 stages: a biological stage, cultural stage, and technological stage. Biological stage is the first one, 1.0, in which the computer is just based on hardware and software. 2.0 is when how the hardware and software is actually designed, and the third one is designing its own AI, and that's how I have written this book. So this is an alien right here. So the story is somehow that the aliens and humans have a fight in this book, and somehow taking a capsule, I have explained how did we get rid of aliens. So creating adventure with AI is my third book. The fourth book that I have a hard copy over here is Karthik Mixi and Climate Change. It's now or never, as you can see. We need to save our planet. So on the 5th of June, this book is released, 5th June 2022. The title is It's Now or Never, because the title of 5th June, does anybody know the importance of 5th June? Like, why is 5th June so important? Exactly, it's World Environment Day, and climate change is related to environment. That's the reason I published my book on that day, because It's Now or Never represents that we have only one planet, that is Earth. We do not have a second planet, Planet B, till now. Moving ahead, this is my roadmap on how I came so far in my journey, because it says my story as the title. So I started in 2017. That's when I was 7 years old. That was my first Litventure festival photo, as you can see, Litventure, Andheri, and that's me. In 2018, I came across Andheri Lit Fest. That is another Lit Fest that I was present at. In 2019, I got the Pride of Indian Education Awards by Diya Mirza, actress. And then I came on to 2019 again to Kala Ghoda Art Festival at our city mall. This was one of the biggest things that led me to stand here All of these events gave me power, gave me the fire that I can actually write. And today's message, which I would like to give all of you, is we have an author in all of us. It's just that I've seen many people in school who just keep reading books, fancy books such as Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, but they never take the thought of the book ahead. So this is why I want you all to write something. Even though you might think in this population of 8 billion people, we don't have unique ideas, but all of you are unique. All of you have a unique fingerprint at least to speak if you are all unique. So taking it from there, another quote which is by Ramakrishna Paramhans. Does anybody know whose guru he was? Ramakrishna Paramhans. He was the guru of Swami Vivekanand, and the quote goes by, if you take one step towards God, God will take 10 steps towards you. Even if you take a pen in your hand and start writing, you don't know where writing will take you places. That's what I want to include and give a feedback for till the journey till here. Then I took workshops, school workshops, not only at Aurangabad, but I took it as various places, such as Mount Litra Z School, Eurokids. I've covered over 25 schools, 25 different types of workshops, if I need to name, from which one was at Aurangabad. Taking the whole process into nature, this is how I am actually standing here. I conducted a workshop that Language Matters, a Sparks initiative for 17 school pan-India. Does anybody know how many languages we have? Official Indian languages. We have 121 different languages. The motto is not even 121, that's just official languages. We have 19,500 different dialects. What is a dialect? Does anybody know? It is a local language which is spoken from 50 to 100 kilometers at a distance. So I'm from Bombay, Mumbai. Coming to Kerala was a new language such as Malayalam, which I know most of you know, I believe. So taking that language in a radius of 50 to 100 kilometers is the best example I can give you. Having 19,000 languages, this book that is over here, Climate Change, is in 6 different languages. But the 6th one is at today 5 p.m. and I want all of you to be present there. I named the 5 languages. It's Hindi, English, Marathi, Gujarati and Bengali. So the first 3 languages, that is Hindi, English and Marathi, I know most of it, but the 4th and the 5th language that is there is what I have used a translator to translate it, but for the images also it took a lot of time. Coming on, Speakers National Youth Summit, Tide Turner Champion. So if all of you had heard what ma'am said who was here in my introduction is about this. The National Youth Summit of Tide Turner Plastic Challenge. Starting climate change as a person, I stood out from here in 2020. And this is the image of the Sparks workshop that was in 2021 on Language Matters. 2022, I launched 5 books, 5 languages, 5 books. I have launched 5 different books with the governor of Maharashtra who was there, Shri Koshyari ji. And this was done on the 5th of June, as I mentioned. Muskan Literature Festival was in Delhi last month. So 10th Jan 2023, that happens to be my birthday also. So this was Muskan Literature Festival. I'm this person here. And I attended this. I had a lot of fun, learned a lot. And the main purpose of Mathrubhumi Literature Festival is to exchange thoughts and learn as much as we can. Because we youth have nothing to lose. Even a small error in a test might just give us a learning opportunity, and that's what philosophy of life is. My philosophy is we never lose. We either win or we learn. Taking it from there to the Messenger of Peace Award, Eco Hero and Unstoppable 21, due to which I am on this stage. The biggest award I have received till now is Unstoppable Award by the Times of India. Moving on to the next slide is, every incident or an observation can be a story if you can think beyond it and question. I would just give you a 5W framework, a very easy framework for all of you to write your first story in 5 minutes. Literal 5 minutes, 5 questions, 5 minutes. Easy, very easy. So this is how a spectrum looks, a rainbow looks, and from this rainbow, all your thoughts that are diverging will get into your brain, leading to one path, that is writing. So moving on to the next slide, the 5W framework I was talking about. You answer these 5 questions in 5 minutes about any incident that you love. You like the decoration of the festival, you write what are the 5 questions, 5W framework, and you're done. It says 5W because all the questions start with the letter W. Who, why, when, what, where. So coming on, read, listen, observe, and think. The more you read, the more you listen, is the more you will write in your book. Because no one can ever take away things from that you have learned. Now, I said a lot of things in this presentation. I'll share an example that you all can understand the concept better that I'm trying to portray. You know who's a doctor in hospitals, medical? Take a doctor of heart, he's known as cardiologist, and take a person who is a medical student. A doctor does 100 operations of heart in one day. But a medical student, for him to reach at this point would be very difficult. So if that doctor writes a book, an autobiography of his own about what experiences, what challenges he went through, that medical student can read one book and overcome everything to be a better doctor. So this is how, this is what I'm trying to portray. If you read more books, you can get the knowledge that broadens your imagination to understand it. So take time, take a minute, look at these 5 questions, print them in your mind, take a small favorite incident of Mathrubhumi festival or whatever has happened in the last week. You saw a bird on a tree, you are sitting here, you are seeing people, anything it can be. Try answering these 5 questions in 1 minute in your mind, and that would be your first story. So the question is who? So you can write about what setting you have taken. For example, you have taken a bird. So from where is the bird is the second, is that question. From where is the bird? Why is it sitting? When did it, is it a migratory bird? Did it come from the Arctic? Taking Arctic, by the way, the point of climate change is it has even affected Antarctica till now. I know none of you are really aware about how did it affect Antarctica. The fact is, in Antarctica you can find microplastics. And even if climate change seems as a very small topic to all of you, I would like to address that Kiribati, that is a country I think most of you know, is going to be under the ocean because of climate change. That's how climate change is. That's how bad climate change is. Those are some examples, those are some facts that I would like to highlight. Think about it. A country that has nothing to do, most of the modern countries, you take India, US and China for example, those are the ones that might have the maximum carbon emissions. Taking it from there, you have a country, small country like Kiribati that is going under the ocean because of climate change. That's how far-reaching climate change is. Inspiration and connect. I took workshop at school and presentations at events. For example, this is an event and I'm taking a presentation. Workshops are the similar manner, but in there I actually formulate a story. So listening and reading, the combination of these two things, that is listening and reading, leads you to writing a book. So I want all of you to go home, read at least one book and at least one page of that book. And I believe some of you would be receiving this book as well. So you can read this book, and my books are available at Mathrubhumi books also, if some of you would like to purchase it. And listening and reading is a key thing that will lead you to writing. A candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. Now, for example, this thought is related to this thing at the last page of my book. This is it. The envelope is related to a candle over here. I pass on books of my free book distribution drive, which has a neem seed inside, which all of you can see properly. This neem seed, this book that I pass to people is like a candle igniting fire on another candle. Because I have nothing to lose even after giving knowledge. All that I would learn is learn from my mistakes and go ahead. So this quote is by James Keller, and let's move ahead. So I believe James Keller is a musician, and he has written this quote about a candle doesn't lose fire, and go ahead. So let's move ahead. These are the 5 languages over here. You have the Marathi, Hindi, Gujarati, Bengali, and that is the English version right there. 5 languages. The 6th one is going to be told to you in a short while. Book on climate change is Karthik Mixi, and climate change, it's now or never. Now the main part of the book is, if you look at the last page, this, Here is the logo of my book. This is the logo of my book over here. That's an enlarged version of it. So the motto of these books are, each one read one to plant one. So you read a book, that is your each one is your hand. So this looks like Lord Ganesh, and I have used rainbow colors to represent and make it colorful, appealing to the eyes. Each one represents the hand. Read one represents this small little bookmark, as you can see this page, and plant one represents two leaf. One leaf that I plant a tree as, and second that you plant the tree as through this book. Moving ahead, my journey so far, summing it up because this acts as a summary because the session is almost going to be over. So take this as a conclusion slide. How many colors are there in a rainbow? Those are the 7 things that have implemented me in my journey. First was short stories from the first story that I wrote, Magical Dustbin. Coming on to my first book, that is 12 to 13 short stories of my own book, Karthik Mixi, A Journey of Creation. Then coming to the novel, Karthik Mixi, A Journey on Jungle Adventure. That's my second book. Science fiction, my most favorite book, Karthik Mixi and Europa. It's time to write with AI because AI will conquer the world in some time and it's going to be a huge, huge thing. It's taking jobs still. E-comics is the 3 e-comics I have written in 2020, 2021 and 2022. Climate change booklet, that is the booklet here, and I have released the book in 4 languages plus 1, that is 5 English. So moving on to the next slide is the last slide because as we move on to the question session, before which I want to show something which most of you might not have related. You see a rainbow over here and move on 3 slides before this. 1, 2 and 3. So on the next slide you see another rainbow. So the significance of the rainbow is the amount of colors represents the thoughts. Thoughts entering your brain are the only key factor that play an important and pivotal role in your story writing. So to sum up my whole story, that is the title of today's presentation, is the 3 words present here. Act without expectation. I began with a quote of Laote's. I finished the session with a quote of Laote's. Act without expectation is what sums up my entire thing that I have talked for. I have written my first book and I had no clue that my first book will actually get published. I wrote 12 to 13 stories and then I left them on my table, went for my school. My father is the one who got them published, and then after me getting invited to other workshops, I got the motivation, got the fire to keep writing and keep learning through my journey. So never stop learning because life never stops teaching. So now I'm open to the questions because I'm sure a lot of you might have questions on how we can write a story actually, or how should we proceed, what are the books you actually recommend. So we are open to questions, 15-20 minutes, and then is your 10-minute break. So all of you can ask me questions and I'm open to questions now.
My question to you is, how you write your story? Like, do you find any difficulty in starting trouble or ending the story?
So starting the story, if I just move a few slides back, just 1 second. So yeah, I cannot show it here. Wait a second. Yeah, if you see, starting the story is like something like the title. It's as difficult as that for me because title of the book and title of the story are one of the toughest things you need to think, because you need to go through a complete framework that I'm including this in chapter 1, then that in chapter 2, and it should be a continuity, not like I'm talking about animals in the first one and I switch up to birds in the second one. It does not make sense. I need to have a continuation between everything. So starting the story is, I think, the toughest step because starting requires a lot of energy. Later you get the momentum and you can finish writing. So that's what. By the way, I did not expect anyone, but I thought you would ask me, why have I written wall of green and pledge on this whiteboard here? Can somebody tell me what is the significance of me writing this? Anybody? Anybody? Any answer is okay. Fine, then I'll tell. So wall of green says I want you all to sign on this paper right here. So it becomes a memorable experience for all of us. All of you after the session can come up, sign. I have pens over there kept. So you can sign with that and write what you learned today in 2 words. Just think about it. Write what you can do it. That's where you write it in a pledge. So wall of green is where you all sign, and pledge is where you write what you learned or what is your motto in 2 to 3 words, a short message. Like I summed up my thing, what I wrote in 3 words, that was act without expectation. Those were the 3 words I summed it in. So any of you can just sum it up in 3 words of what you are going through. Think it now, because in the next 10 minutes, you need to come up here and write what you have done it. Any other question till then? Any question? Like that was a really good question. Anybody else?
So my question is, at what age did you actually start writing books? And what was your motive for writing books in such a young age?
Really good question. So you can have a seat. How did I actually start writing is the main question that I intricate. So I started writing at the age of 6. Where 6 is when I actually started writing my first book. That's a it took me 2 years to write my first book from 6 to 8. And how did I start? What was the motivation? So at that time, because I was young, I read the Panchtantra tales. So from Panchtantra, I remember of one bird, that is crow. And you know where else where a crow is used in today's festival? You scroll through the Mathrubhumi site on our sponsors and look at the green partner. I'm sure you will find a logo which has a crow and a broom with it. Just scroll through the Mathrubhumi site. Our sponsors, next to the solar sponsors that are there, such as Watson, next to it is your green partner that's there, a crow with a broom and a Malayali logo it is. So that's how I actually started writing over there. So yeah, you had a question.
Who inspired you?
My father. Right there is my father, who actually inspired me to write my first book. So he's the one who read out Panchtantra and Jhatak tales to me personally, and he's the one who actually made me feel special, that I actually can reach a milestone in life. Keep writing, keep learning was what he told me. I kept on writing, and not to mention my father is also an author. He has written quite a few books, such as Smart Moves Great Career is my father's one of the books. So yeah, that's my main inspiration to writing books. Anyone else who wants to ask any question? I want someone to ask a question from here, this main. Someone. One question.
Do you ever have any difficulties to write the stories?
Yeah, that's a good question. By the way, first guy to ask a question from 7th grade. Good job. Yeah, did I have any difficulty in writing a story? So does anybody remember the title of my 3rd book? Anybody was actively listening? 3rd book. Just say it.
Karthik and Mixi, Euro and Europa.
Absolutely correct answer. Good job. So that's the book that took me the maximum time to write, because AI is something that completely changes your story. I would say 4 out of 10 times, it literally changed the whole meaning of the story, and I had to cut the whole thing, delete everything and restart writing. That's the toughest part, because writing is not an event, it's a complete journey you need to go through. The amount of times I've cancelled pages, the amount of times I've toned the idea that I had was immense. So any other question before we start signing this and writing a motto? I want one person to stand up and say what their motto is. Before which? I want at least one person to say what their motto is in life. Oh yeah, question. Toughest part, thinking of the title. That's the toughest part you think in writing a book, is thinking of the title and the back page. Conclusion is something which can go as much as long as you think, but you just need to be satisfied with what you have and should provide a central meaning of the entire book. Like mine, it says that my book has 2 sections. The climate change book has 2 sections. First section is covering the problems. That is 4 problems: global warming, melting glaciers, ocean pollution, and one more. And then you have 3 solutions to it, such as recycle plastic, use sustainable energy, and one more. So that is what I thought of sections. I've included 3 sections in the book of AI also. So thinking of the title and the back page is the toughest thing.
How much time does it take for you to write a book?
1 year it took me to write each book, except for the AI book, it took a lot of time to write.
My question is, where do you get your ideas from? Like you got your moon from Jupiter and all. How do you get your ideas?
So that's something which was recommended by AI. That's totally on science fiction. I read a lot of encyclopedias in particular. I read only science fiction, such as, if I need to name the 3 books that I've read recently, one would be Rise of Robots by Martin Ford, another best-selling book. You can take Life 3.0 by Max Tegmark. And the third book is World in 2050 by Hamish McRae. So those are the 3 books mainly that I read, before which I used to read science encyclopedias, and fascinated with those, I came up with the idea of Europa. So something that I think I maybe forgot to include in the presentation is observe, read and write is the way you actually curate it, and answer the question to 5 W's would be your story. So that's how I make my stories. Any other question? Anyone? Alright, so I'll end the session by handing over pens to you, so you can fill this wall by signing and this wall by your motto in life. So I'll hand over the sketch pens that I have over here.